Next, I'll yield to my good friend, and actually, when we say that here, we usually don't like each other. In this case, I do. He is a good friend, Bill Cassidy from Louisiana.
Thank you, Dr. Rowe. First, shout out to my people from Louisiana. I know I have some folks. Whoa! And I would just like to point out that Camp Lejeune is named after a fellow who was born in Louisiana, and John Lejeune went to LSU before he went to the Naval. So North Carolina benefits from us. Well, what's new? And I also want to give a shout out to my veterans. Louisiana is one of the top 3 in the nation for veterans who served during wartime. So I want to thank my fellow Louisianians for answering the call in time of strife. Thank you for your service. I loved your testimony. Commander, you are right in line with some legislation that I will speak to that I'm introducing that I think y'all will like. I'm a physician, Dr. Rowe as well, but I'm a liver doctor. My joke yesterday is when I say I'm actually a hepatologist, but when you say hepatology, people think you do either snakes or venereal disease, and so, but I'm a liver doctor. And I've worked with a lot of people with transplants, and it just makes sense. The more transplants a transplant center does, the better your outcomes. The more likely the new organ survives, the more likely the person lives, the shorter time they spend in the hospital. We're introducing a bill that if a veteran lives near a private sector transplant center, that she or he could go to that nearby transplant center as opposed to being referred to the VA 1,000 miles away. Now, distance doesn't bother me as much, but if you look at the VA transplant centers, they don't do as many. And in some cases, their outcomes are not as good. So if you're in New Orleans and you have a chance to go to Ochsner, which may do 300 liver transplants a year, and has the best outcomes in the country, as opposed to someplace else in the VA system which does 20 a year and which has only 70% as good outcomes as the New Orleans Center, why wouldn't you go to New Orleans if you live in New Orleans? And Commander, you said if the specialty service is not offered in the VA, that's when choice really comes into play. I would argue when it's offered but may not be as good. Because what we're talking about here are lives. As a hepatologist who has taken care of transplants, I know the experience of the center matters. And in this case, it matters for the person's life. And so I look forward to exploring that with you. We've heard some preliminary indications the VA might be opposed, but I don't know why. Because Secretary Shulkin at one point said the VA is about the veteran. It is not about the VA system. And I actually think that is the best, highest calling of all. Because for you, each of you made the decision that your life was about our country, more so than even your life. I thank you for that, and I will do my best to continue the ethic that you inspire us all with. Thank you, and I yield back.